Hi, my name is BJ Kaufman, and today we'll be talking about the use of actions within Photoshops. Now, I use actions a lot to change my imported images or scanned images from TIFFs over to JPEGs, but I also use them to resize it to fit a specific format that I put on my websites. So we're going to look at how to use actions and how to make them, how to use these actions in order to resize and then change the extension of the images that we have. So first things first, we have to have imported images. So on the right side I have about 13 images that I labeled Dad Vietnam, and you can see they're all sequenced. Now the second part of this is that we have to make sure our Actions tab is open, and we do this by going to Windows and then Actions. I already have mine open, and it's over here on the right side. Photoshop incorporates actions that they think their users will use all the time. So they have sepia toning, they have different borders and vignettes, and it also allows you the ability to create your own. So I took a bunch of pinhole images and I had to rotate and flip each one of them. And instead of doing that manually to about 20 images, I created an action and it did it for me. Now, the next one, 2 JPEGs, that's another action I created to just to switch the extension from a TIFF to save them as JPEGs, and I saved it in another folder. So that's what we're going to do today, but we're also going to resize it. To get started, we create another set, which is this folder icon down here, and I'm going to name this set Dad's Vietnam to JPEG. Click OK, and then the next part of it is adding an action to it. So this little paper icon over here is adding an action, so I'm going to name this Open, Resize, and Save. Those are all the things that we're going to be doing. It belongs to the set we just created, and I don't need a function key or a color for it. Now when I click record, you're going to Photoshop will start recording every move that we do within Photoshop. So it also has a way to stop the recording. So if I click record, I can pause it right here, and then I'll go ahead and click resume again, begin recording, when I'm ready to go ahead and start again. So now we're recording what's going on in Photoshop. So the first thing I want to do is open one of my images. File, Open, and then we'll just select the first image in the sequence. So we'll go ahead and open that. Now these TIFFs are usually pretty big, so the first thing I want to do is I want to downsize it a little bit so it will fit on the web or whatever other use I'm having for it. So 300 dpi is a pretty good resolution. Now you can also change the document size, and you can make them all exactly the same size or saved exactly as the same size. Go ahead and click OK. And then after we resize it, the next thing that we want to do is save it. So we just go up to File, we'll click Save As, and then we'll change the extension from a TIFF to a JPEG. But we don't want to save it in the same folder because it's going to say Dad Vietnam JPEG, Dad Vietnam 01 TIFF, Dad 001 JPEG. So we'll just create another folder real quick, and we'll call this Vietnam JPEG. Create it, and we'll save it. Okay, so our 26 meg image is now down to 1.2. You see if I even put it at medium quality, it takes it down to about 220K, which is still pretty good. Alright, we'll keep it up at the highest quality and click OK. Now the last thing we want to do with this action is close the file. If we don't close the file, when we run this action, Photoshop will keep all the files open. So if you're doing a big batch like 200 photos, for example, it'll keep all 200 photos open and it'll slow down the entire process. So make sure you just come up, exit out, and that's it. Now the last step in making this action is going to be to stop the recording. So we click stop. Now that we have this action saved, how to run the action is by going up to File, down to Automate, and then right over to Batch. This is the set that we want. You see we had the default Photoshop actions, the pinhole one I did, and then the one we just created. This is the action within that set. And then we can choose what source we want to draw from. So in this case we're going to use the folder, and the folder is located on my desktop, and it's right there. We'll select that. Let's hit choose that folder. Now since we already incorporated an open command into the action, we're going to click override the open command. We don't want to include the subfolder in this case because we're saving everything to a subfolder. Suppress the open dialogues. We don't need that either, and we don't need to worry about the color profile warnings yet. The destination, we can either just save and close it or do nothing with it, or we can send it to a folder. So we're going to click the folder. We're going to choose the folder that we just created called Vietnam JPEG, and that's where all the JPEGs will be saved. So we'll hit choose on that one. Now you can choose to name this however you want. I just choose to stick with the original names that they had, and I can rename it if I want to. You can do it by serial number or letter, but I just like to use the original document title that I had. You can change the extension on it too with a bunch of other options. And then down at the errors, we want to make sure that we're going to stop for errors. If we don't stop for errors, then the first time we run the action, if we don't stop for the errors, then it'll go through the whole thing, and we don't know if anything was forgotten or not. So we'll go ahead and click stop for errors on here. And once I click OK, it's going to start running the action. So here it goes. So you can see it's opening it, sizing it, saving it, and closing it in a very short period of time. We're almost halfway through. Okay, here's the last one. Now all I have to do is open up my Vietnam JPEG folder, and here's all the JPEGs that I had. So with that, I'm done. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed.